The mountains did not forgive weakness, and neither did the people who lived beneath them. Clara Bennett learned that truth the hard way. Her hands were raw, her breath sharp as cold iron as she swung the hammer again, forcing the nail into the rough timber frame. The skeleton of a house stood before her, fragile, unfinished, stubbornly clinging to life, much like she did. Behind her, autumn wind scraped across the barren slope, carrying dust and whispers. Whispers she'd heard too many times. She shouldn't be here. She should have left after her husband died. Women don't build homes. Women remarry. But Clara wasn't building a house for anyone's approval. She was building a promise to herself, to the man she lost, and to the future she refused to surrender. Her arms trembled from days of work and nights of grief. Grief that showed in her eyes more than she ever spoke. Yet even exhausted, she stood tall, jaw set, hair tied back like a soldier preparing for another battle. She didn't see the rider watching from the ridge. Jacob Morgan sat astride a dust-colored horse, silent, almost reverent. He'd seen wounds like hers before, invisible scars deeper than any bullet or blade. He carried some himself. He didn't approach, not yet. He simply watched as Clara lifted another beam alone, struggling but determined. Most folks in town said she was foolish. Some said she was mad. Jacob saw neither. He saw a woman too brave for her own safety, too proud to break, too hurt to bend. A soul rebuilding from ashes. Clara stumbled as the beam slipped. She caught it barely, and for a moment the mask cracked. Her breath hitched. Tears gathered, but did not fall. Jacob felt something shift inside him. Respect, recognition, and a quiet ache. A person could choose many things in life: wealth, reputation, comfort. But few chose honest struggle. Few chose to keep going when the world called them broken. Clara Bennett had chosen, and whether she liked it or not, fate and a weather-worn cowboy on the hill had chosen her too. The next morning broke with a pale sun dragging itself over the peaks, light spilling slow and cold across the valley. Clara woke on her straw mattress, shoulders aching, palms stiff. She moved like someone whose bones remembered sorrow more than sleep. Outside, frost glazed the ground. Her breath rose in clouds as she stepped from her tent, tugging her coat close. The unfinished frame of her house loomed in the dawn, stubborn, silent, a promise she still intended to keep. She gathered her tools, jaw tight with resolve. Every morning she told herself the same thing: I can do this alone. Every morning, the world tested her conviction. When she hoisted the next board, her arms shook, protesting. She gritted her teeth and lifted harder, breath hissing through clenched lips. The beam wobbled, threatening to fall, and so did her resolve. But pride, hard and brittle, held her in place. Then she heard hooves. Clara turned, already ready for trouble. Too many riders in these hills arrived with judgment in their pockets and spite in their mouths. But the man who approached rode slow, respectful, as though the land itself had asked him to tread gently. Jacob Morgan dismounted a few paces away. He tipped his hat, eyes meeting hers without pity, only calm, steady understanding. "Mornin', Miss Bennett." She stiffened. "You watchin' me yesterday?" He didn't flinch. "Yes, ma'am." "You enjoy spying on women alone in the wilderness?" A faint smile tugged his mouth, not mocking, just tired and honest. "No, ma'am. I enjoy seeing strength. Doesn't show itself often." That disarmed her more than criticism ever had. She turned back to the beam, refusing to let his words soften her defenses. "I don't need an audience," she muttered. "Didn't come to watch." He stepped closer. "Came to help." The offer hung between them like a dangerous wind. Help meant trust, and trust had cost her everything once. She didn't look at him. "I didn't ask." "You didn't have to." His voice held no push, only quiet patience. Building alone ain't stubborn. It's brave. But sometimes brave folks forget they don't have to bleed to prove it. Her throat tightened, an unwelcome sting. She positioned the beam again, arms shaking. Jacob stepped forward, hands raised but waiting for permission, like one approaching a wounded animal. "Let me hold the weight," he said softly. "Just for a minute." Clara wanted to reject him, wanted to guard her bitterness like a shield. But her muscles trembled, her breath faltered, and the truth slipped through her pride like light through cracked wood. She was tired. After a long silence, she gave a single, sharp nod. Jacob lifted the beam with her, steady, sure, sharing the burden without taking control. For the first time in months, the weight in her hands felt bearable. She didn't thank him. He didn't ask her to. Sometimes the first bridge between two wounded souls isn't words, but shared effort, quiet and heavy and real. For a while, nothing existed except wood, breath, and the quiet rhythm of shared effort. Clara expected Jacob to talk. Men always filled silence as if afraid of it. But he didn't. He worked beside her, patient, grounded, like the mountains themselves. When the beam settled into place, Clara stepped back, hands trembling not from weakness now, but from unfamiliar relief. Jacob wiped his palms on his coat and looked at the rising frame. "You're building more than a house," he said gently. His voice wasn't admiration, it was recognition. Like he'd built his own refuge once, plank by painful plank. Clara busied herself with tools, back straight. "I'm building a life that don't belong to anyone but me." Jacob nodded slowly. A good life still needs sturdy support beams. She shot him a look sharp enough to cut wood. He didn't flinch. "I ain't here to take anything from you," he continued, "or give orders. Just figured two tired souls might stand steadier if they leaned a little." Clara hated how his words found cracks in her armor. It was easier when people judged her, easier when she could justify pushing them away. But this quiet kindness, that was dangerous. Kindness had fooled her once. Kindness had turned into chains. She forced, her tone cold. "You helped today. That don't make us friends." "No, ma'am," he agreed, strangely at peace with it. "Respect ain't friendship. It's earned first." That startled her. Most people demanded trust, like payment up front. Jacob seemed content to plant a seed and walk away if it didn't grow. They worked until the sun lifted higher, pushing warmth into the ground. With every board raised, Clara's defenses felt heavier than the wood. But Jacob didn't pry, didn't preach. He matched her pace, moved when she moved, paused when she paused, not leading, not following, simply existing beside her. When noon crept in, Clara straightened, stretching sore wrists. A pot sat near her tent, last night's thin stew gone cold. Jacob noticed it, but didn't comment. Pride lived where hunger did, and he treated both with respect. "I'll take my horse down the ridge," he finally said, brushing dust from his hat. "Got tools and flour at my place. I'll bring some back tomorrow, if you allow it." Clara hesitated. Hospitality meant obligation. Supplies meant indebtedness. And she couldn't afford a single chain, even a kind one. "Tools I'll borrow," she said slowly. "Flour I'll pay for." Jacob didn't smile at her toughness this time. He bowed his head like she'd given him the highest courtesy. Fair enough. He mounted his horse, reins loose in his hand. Clara expected him to leave without looking back. But halfway down the slope, he paused and glanced over his shoulder. "Miss Bennet," he called, voice steady as the earth beneath them. "You ain't weak for accepting help. Weakness is pretending you never need it." Then he rode on, dust curling behind him like memory. The next day arrived, wrapped in winter's breath, pale and unforgiving. Clara woke to the crunch of frost beneath her boots and the sting of cold air in her lungs. But something felt different, not in the world around her, but in herself. Yesterday she carried loneliness like a stone in her chest. Today, the stone felt lighter. Not gone, but shifted, as if someone had helped her lift it. Even if only for a moment. She shook the thought off like snow from a coat. Hope was dangerous. It whispered promises and then left you in the ruins when they didn't come true. She had learned that lesson in blood and grief. The sun climbed higher when she heard hoofbeats again, slower this time. Steady as a heartbeat. Jacob rode into view with a pack tied behind his saddle. He dismounted without flourish, without expectation, as though this routine had always existed between them. "Mornin', Miss Bennet." "Mornin'," she nodded, not trusting the warmth rising uninvited in her chest. Jacob untied the bundle, pulling out tools and a sack. "Borrowed hammer, saw, and nails. Flowers in here too." Clara folded her arms. "I said I'd pay." "And you will," he answered simply, placing the bag at her feet. "One day. No hurry." It frustrated her, his steady patience, his refusal to turn kindness into debt. People always wanted something, but Jacob offered help like someone who had once needed it himself. They worked without much talk. Wood thudded. Nails rang. The house rose, stubborn and proud, board by board. The rhythm steadied her thoughts until distant voices reached her ears. Riders, 3 of them, laughing. Clara froze. Jacob's posture stiffened to a subtle shift, shoulders squaring like he expected trouble. The riders slowed, eyes crawling over the scene like flies on meat. Clara recognized one, Henry Tate, a man who measured his worth by how small he could make others feel. "Well, look here," Henry called, smirking. "A lady carpenter and her hired protector." Another snickered. "Thought widows were supposed to keep quiet, not build castles." Clara's jaw locked. Shame tried to rise, old, burning, familiar. But before it reached her lips, Jacob stepped forward. Voice level as a calm river hiding depth. "She's building a home," he said. "More than most men manage." Henry's grin faltered. "Wasn't talking to you, Morgan." Jacob didn't blink. "Yet," I answered. The air tightened. Clara felt fear coil not for herself, but for the delicate peace she'd built here. Whispers already chased her. She couldn't afford fuel on that fire. "Jacob," she murmured low, warning him, protecting him, or trying to protect herself from needing him. He glanced at her, a flicker, brief but full of meaning, then turned back to the men. "You boys best move along," he said. "Ain't no honor pickin' at folk who work harder than you ever did." The riders muttered, spat in the dirt, then rode off, pride pierced, backs stiff. Dust rose behind them, then silence returned. After the riders disappeared beyond the ridge, the mountains returned to their quiet breathing. But the silence between Clara and Jacob felt different now, tense. Heavy with words neither dared to speak yet. Clara turned back to her work, movements sharp, as though motion alone could keep emotions at bay. The hammer in her hand struck wood with more force than needed. She didn't look at Jacob, because if she did, she feared she might see something she wasn't ready for. Loyalty, perhaps, or worse, concern. She didn't want to be someone to protect. She didn't want to owe anyone that much space in her heart again. "Clara," Jacob finally said, wiping dust from his palms, You're angry." "I'm not," she answered too quickly. He let out a low breath, not frustration, just acceptance. "You think standing quiet keeps peace. Sometimes it just gives cowards comfort." Her jaw tightened. "I don't need you fighting my battles." "No," he agreed gently. "But nobody should fight alone." Those words struck deeper than he likely realized. Loneliness had been her armor, her punishment, her proof that she could survive without love, without trust, without anyone. And here this man stood, steady, stubborn, refusing to let her drown in independence. She gripped the beam, knuckles pale. "Every time someone defended me before," she said quietly, "I paid for it later. With whispers, accusations, a stain on my name I never earned." Jacob's voice softened. "Some folks gossip because they hate seeing someone rise while they stay small. It ruined my life once." He didn't rush to answer. Jacob Morgan was a man who respected silence the way other men respected God. Finally, he spoke. "And hiding from them, did that save you?" The truth hit harder than any hammer. No shield she built kept pain away. No distance stopped grief from finding her. Loneliness wasn't safety, it was surrender. But Clara couldn't admit that. Not yet. She forced steel into her voice. "You don't understand." Jacob paused, gaze drifting toward the mountains like he was remembering ghosts of his own. "My wife died," he said quietly. "Town said it was my fault. Said grief made me dangerous. Said a man who couldn't save his family shouldn't speak on another's." Clara's breath caught. She hadn't known. And pain, real raw, lived pain flickered in his eyes before he blinked it away. "I learned something then," he continued. "People talk whether you stand tall or fall to your knees. They talk to feel taller than the graves they've dug with their own bitterness." Clara looked away, the sting behind her eyes returning. She refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of someone who might care. "Why help me?" she asked, voice barely above a breath. "What do you gain?" Jacob studied her, not searching for guilt or weakness, but understanding. "Maybe I see someone who deserves a place in this world. Someone fighting the same ghosts I fought." The days slipped by like smoke on the mountain wind. Frost deepened, nights stretched long, and the unfinished house slowly transformed into something solid, something that looked like it belonged. Walls rose, beams locked into place, windows framed the pale horizon. Each plank carried sweat and stubbornness. Each nail a quiet act of defiance against the world that had tried to break them both. Clara worked with a steadiness she hadn't felt in years. Her muscles grew stronger, her movements sure. Yet the greatest change wasn't in timber or tools, it was the presence beside her. Jacob didn't hover or command. He moved like a man who understood rhythm, when to step in, when to stand aside, when silence carried more comfort than words. Sometimes they exchanged stories without speaking. The scrape of wood, the crunch of boots in snow, the soft sigh of breath in the cold. Those sounds wove a language only the wounded understood. Clara noticed things she never meant to. How Jacob wiped his hands on his coat twice before handing her a tool. Like respect lived in the smallest gestures. How he hummed low when he worked, barely audible. A habit left over from a life where music softened grief. How his eyes, tired, steady, held storms he never named. She didn't ask. He didn't offer. Pain shared too soon turned into pity, and neither of them wanted that. One morning, as they fitted a doorframe, snow started falling, the kind that didn't rush, but drifted. Lazy and delicate, like the sky had decided to breathe feathers. Jacob paused, watching flakes settle on his glove. "Winter's settling early," he murmured. Clara brushed snow from her sleeve. "I'll finish before it buries the valley." He studied her a moment, not doubting, just seeing the fire in her eyes. "You will, but you don't have to outrun the cold alone." A flicker of warmth sparked beneath her ribs, unwelcome, unfamiliar, dangerous. She turned back to the wood. "I've managed winter before." "Survived," he corrected. "There's a difference between livin' and out." His words settled into her like embers catching in ash, slow, persistent, unwilling to die. Hours passed. Breath fogged the air, snow-layered roofs and branches. The world turning hushed and white. By late afternoon, they stood inside the house frame, sheltered from the wind. Clara looked around, rough boards, uneven edges, sawdust clinging to her hair. Imperfect, unfinished, but real. "I think it'll hold," she whispered, almost to herself. Jacob leaned against a beam, snow melting on his shoulders. "It'll stand longer than most things built in comfort." Clara's gaze drifted to the doorway, a view of the wild valley she'd chosen. Instead of safety, comfort never taught me anything good. "No," Jacob agreed softly. But neither did being alone. For a heartbeat, she let the truth of that rest between them. Not surrender, just acknowledgement. A step, a breath, a beginning she didn't trust but couldn't deny. The storm deepened over the next 2 days. Snow wrapped the valley in silence, smothering sound and color until the world felt carved from bone and sky. Clara worked through it anyway, breath burning her lungs, fingertips numb despite gloves. She refused to let winter dictate her pace. Life had taken enough from her already. Jacob returned each morning, dusted white from the ride, cheeks flushed from wind. He carried firewood one day, stew another, nails and rope the next. He never asked permission, he simply placed the items where they belonged, like the earth itself had sent him as reinforcement. Clara would have pushed him away if she could, but winter was honest in its cruelty, and his presence meant the difference between surviving and fighting through. She didn't thank him. Words like that felt too fragile. Breakable things didn't belong in her mouth yet. That afternoon, as the wind howled around the beams and snow drifted through cracks, Jacob struck a match, lighting a small fire in the stone ring they had built days before. Flames flickered, catching, offering warmth like a promise too gentle to trust at first. "Storms settling in," he said quietly. "Road'll freeze over by dusk." Clara nodded, but kept hammering, refusing to slow. Jacob watched her a long moment. "You push like you're running from something," he finally said. She didn't pause. "I push because no one else ever did." "That ain't true," he murmured. "Somebody once did. That's why Lucendom hurt so deep." The hammer froze midair. His voice was soft, not prying, a truth spoken like a man recognizing a scar that matched his own. Clara swallowed hard and set the tool down. She sat near the fire, but not too close, arms around her knees. Jacob stayed a respectful distance away, letting silence settle. They didn't need stories. The silence told enough. 2 lives bent by grief, holding themselves upright because falling once had nearly killed them. "You ever think about leaving?" she asked suddenly. "Starting over somewhere far, where nobody knows your past?" Jacob stirred the fire with a stick. "Run from my ghosts." "Tried that. Turns out, ghosts ride just as fast as horses." Clara's voice trembled, though she fought to hide it. "Maybe I thought if I built something with my own hands, the world couldn't take it from me again." "It won't," Jacob said. "Not this time." "What gives you the right to say that?" she whispered. "Experience." He took a slow breath. "And the look in your eyes, That ain't a woman who'll lose again. That's a woman rebuilding, not just walls, but herself. His words pushed warmth into places she'd frozen shut, and it terrified her. I don't need saving, she said, voice steady but quiet. I know, he replied. If you did, I wouldn't have come. I'm here 'cause strong folk deserve someone who doesn't flinch when they stand tall. When the storm finally loosened its grip, the valley breathed again. Snow softened into glittering banks. Smoke rose from the fire pit, and the unfinished house stood like a stubborn promise against the white world. Clara stepped into the morning stillness, boots crunching in ice, lungs filling with air sharp enough to remind her she was alive. Jacob stirred ashes by the doorway, hat low, shoulders relaxed in a way she hadn't seen before, like winter had humbled him. Too, he had spent the nights near the door, keeping watch without saying. He was greeting the cold before it could creep in, not invading her space, not demanding thanks, just being there. Clara wished she could name what that stirred in her. Gratitude, fear, both lived in the same corner of the heart, close enough to confuse. You didn't have to stay those nights, she said finally, voice a whisper against the quiet. Storm didn't give me much choice. His tone was light, but his eyes held truth. He stayed because leaving didn't feel right. She turned away before warmth betrayed her. Work resumed. Snow fell from branches with soft thuds. Tools struck wood, breath puffed white. They built in rhythm again, but something subtle had shifted. Not comfort, something more fragile. Something that felt like trust testing the air, unsure whether to grow or retreat. Halfway through the morning, voices drifted from the trail. 3 riders again. Cold slid through Clara's chest. Jacob's jaw tightened. Henry Tate led them, scarf up to his chin, smirk sharp enough to cut ice. Well, ain't this cozy? Didn't take long for you to get yourself company, Clara. She ignored him. Silence was armor. But Henry wasn't looking for peace. He wanted a crack to crawl into. Town's token. A woman out here with a man who ain't her kin. Folks wondering what kind of home you're building? Jacob stepped forward, but Clara's hand shot out, stopping him. If she let another man fight her battles, they'd never stop seeing her as something frail. She lifted her chin. Let them wonder, she said evenly. Talk keeps their mouths warm in winter. The other men chuckled, not expecting her fire. Henry's eyes narrowed. You always did think higher of yourself than others did. Jacob moved then, not aggressive, just present, solid, like a wall silently stepping between storm and doorframe. We done? He asked Henry calmly. Henry spat into the snow, frustration trembling in his hands. Don't say we didn't warn you. Reputation can drown faster than snow melts. They rode off, but the weight of their words hung like frost, refusing to thaw. Clara's breath shook. Not from fear, from fury at how easily men carved women with nothing but gossip. She turned back to her work, but the hammer felt heavier. Jacob watched her, voice low. You don't have to face that alone. Her reply came sharp, defensive. I've stood against worse. The snow thawed, yet the chill between them lingered. Not sharp, not angry, just uncertain. Like the space between two people who suddenly realized they could hurt each other without meaning to. Clara worked with brisk motions, avoiding Jacob's eyes. She didn't know what frightened her more, his presence or the idea of losing it. Jacob felt the shift too. He didn't push, didn't pry. But something in his posture changed, shoulders slightly guarded, like a man reminded of past reasons to stay at arm's length. The way his gaze lingered on her hands before drifting away, spoke of concern he didn't know where to place anymore. By midday, gray clouds rolled low, dragging shadow across the mountains. Clara walked to fetch more planks, boots sinking in slush. Jacob followed, slower, as if respecting a distance she hadn't asked for but clearly built. "You're quiet today," he finally said. Clara kept her eyes forward. "Work's got enough noise of its own." "That's so?" he murmured. Silence stretched. Snowmelt dripped from the roof frame in slow rhythm, marking time like a clock neither controlled. Clara's throat tightened. She hated how awkwardness felt heavier than solitude ever had. "You did right back there," Jacob said. "Stand in your ground." "I wasn't brave," she answered. "I was angry." "Anger's just fear, dressed up loud," he replied gently. His voice, always steady, always honest, scraped at something raw inside her. She stopped walking, fists curling inside her gloves. "I don't fear men like Tate," she said. Jacob nodded slowly. "I know. But you fear trusting someone, even when they ain't trying to trap you." Her breath hitched. She hated how easily he read truths she buried under bitterness and grit. She hated even more that he didn't use that knowledge against her. "I don't want to lean on anyone," she whispered. "Because if they go, I fall." Jacob's eyes softened, not pity, but recognition. "I didn't ride out here to be someone you lean on. I rode out, 'cause no one should build alone when they don't have to." Clara looked away, fighting emotion, rising like floodwater. She had built walls thicker than timber, but Jacob had a way of setting truth down gently, like bricks you could choose to pick up or leave. They carried planks back in silence. A hawk circled overhead. Snow melted in slow tears down the beams. The house looked less like a skeleton now, more like a home pretending it wasn't ready to open its heart yet. As they worked again, Clara's hand slipped on a board, fingers scraping rough wood. Pain shot up her palm. She hissed a breath, steadying herself. Jacob stepped closer instinctively, then stopped, sensing the boundary she held like a drawn line in sand. "You all right?" he asked. "I've handled worse." She wrapped her hand in cloth, jaw set. "I know you have," he replied quietly. "That ain't the question." The morning they raised the roof beam felt like a crossroads. The air was sharp, clean, full of something that could become hope if touched too directly. Clara stood staring at the massive timber, breath misting the air, heart beating too loud for someone who claimed to fear nothing. Jacob arrived early, leading his horse slow, tools tied to the saddle. He paused when he saw her, not studying, just seeing. The kind of seeing that felt like an open door and a warning all at once. "You ready?" he asked. Clara nodded. "I have to be." Together they positioned the ropes, braced ladders, tested weight. Everything prepared, everything balanced, yet Clara felt anything but steady. The house had taken shape. So had something between them, something she wasn't sure she was strong enough to hold, or brave enough to walk away from. They lifted in silence, muscles straining, wood groaning under the pull. Inch by inch, the beam rose. Clara's heartbeat climbed with it, a promise rising into the rafters. Heavy and undeniable. When it slid into place, she and Jacob held it there, breath held, waiting for certainty. And then, shouts broke across the clearing hooves. Snow kicked up in dirty plumes. Clara's stomach dropped. Jacob didn't turn, but his jaw steeled. 5 riders this time. Henry at the front, face tight with purpose, not mockery now, but something colder. Judgment, weaponized. Clara Bennett. He barked. "Town council wants words." Rumors say you're setting yourself up indecent out here. Clara's grip tightened on the rope. The beam wavered. Jacob steadied it instantly, voice low. "Don't move. I've got it." But her heart thundered. The world she'd escaped had hunted her down. The whispers Henry always flung now sharpened into knives. "I'm building a home," she forced out. "And that ain't indecent." Henry sneered. "A woman alone with a widower under one roof. Folks expect standards. Your husband ain't cold in the ground a year." Pain lanced through her chest, told grief, weaponized. She fought to breathe. "You got no right to judge my grief, or my choices. Town has every right," Henry snapped. "And if Morgan's setting up here with you, then decent men ought to know what they're looking at." Jacob's voice cut across the space, quiet and lethal. "You're talking about a woman who's done nothing but survive. And you sit on a horse pretending it makes you tall." Henry's eyes flashed. "You think you can stand for her without consequence? Folks already say she traps weak-hearted men with pity." Clara flinched. Weak-hearted trap. The words scraped old scars raw. Jacob saw it, and something fierce passed through his eyes, like a man choosing which future to stand in. He released the rope slowly, holding the beam steady alone, and stepped forward. Snow crunched under his boots. His voice carried like stone rolling down a mountain. The morning they raised the roof beam felt like a crossroads. The air was sharp, clean, full of something that could become hope if touched too directly. Clara stood staring at the massive timber, breath misting the air, heart beating too loud for someone who claimed to fear nothing. Jacob arrived early, leading his horse slow, tools tied to the saddle. He paused when he saw her, not studying, just seeing. The kind of seeing that felt like an open door and a warning all at once. "You ready?" he asked. Clara nodded. "I have to be." Together they positioned the ropes, braced ladders, tested weight. Everything prepared, everything balanced, yet Clara felt anything but steady. The house had taken shape. So had something between them. Something she wasn't sure she was strong enough to hold, or brave enough to walk away from. They lifted in silence, muscles straining, wood groaning under the pull. Inch by inch, the beam rose. Clara's heartbeat climbed with it, a promise rising into the rafters. Heavy and undeniable. When it slid into place, she and Jacob held it there. Breath held, waiting for certainty. And then, shouts broke across the clearing hooves. Snow kicked up in dirty plumes. Clara's stomach dropped. Jacob didn't turn, but his jaw steeled. 5 riders this time. Henry at the front, face tight with purpose, not mockery now, but something colder. Judgment, weaponized. Clara Bennett. He barked. "Town council wants words. Rumors say you're setting yourself up indecent out here." Clara's grip tightened on the rope. The beam wavered. Jacob steadied it instantly, voice low. "Don't move. I've got it." But her heart thundered. The world she'd escaped had hunted her down. The whispers Henry always flung now sharpened into knives. "I'm building a home," she forced out. "And that ain't indecent." Henry sneered. "A woman alone with a widower under one roof. Folks expect standards. Your husband ain't cold in the ground a year." Pain lanced through her chest, told grief, weaponized. She fought to breathe. "You got no right to judge my grief, or my choices. Town has every right," Henry snapped. "And if Morgan's setting up here with you, then decent men ought to know what they're looking at." Jacob's voice cut across the space, quiet and lethal. "You're talking about a woman who's done nothing but survive. And you sit on a horse pretending it makes you tall." Henry's eyes flashed. "You think you can stand for her without consequence? Folks already say she traps weak-hearted men with pity." Clara flinched. Weak-hearted trap. The words scraped old scars raw. Jacob saw it, and something fierce passed through his eyes, like a man choosing which future to stand in. He released the rope slowly, holding the beam steady alone, and stepped forward. Snow crunched under his boots. His voice carried like stone rolling down a mountain.